you're not experiencing technical difficulties. Gremlins have invaded America's most mischievous podcast, the Pod People. I'm Matisse Van Rossum, I'm the movie police. Wee woo, wee woo.
I'm the sexy Mogwai.
Oh no.
Ben Sheets.
And I'm hip-hop and hobbling. On my new shoes I'm cobbling. Am I a gremlin or a goblin? I'm just part of the problem. Cleveland Mosher. How's it going?
Man, that was a lyrical miracle.
Lyrical miracle.
I'm sorry, I just have to go back to Ben's real quick. I think what you were looking for was Pogwai.
The Pogwai!
Oh, shit.
Whoa!
Yes,
Holy
absolutely.
Fuck! That's
Man.
gold. All right, well, now we have a good name for that character.
You know, she did have a dump truck.
She had an ass on her,
Yeah.
you know?
That Muppet sure did have
It had an ass.
Wow.
It had an ass. Well, in case you haven't guessed already, we're talking about Gremlins 2, which was Ben's pick.
Full name. The
Gremlins 2,
The new batch.
The new batch.
The new batch.
This film came out in 1991. It is directed by returning Joe Dante, who directed the original. But one of the interesting things about the production of this is that Joe Dante did not want to do Gremlins 2 originally.
Correct.
He thought that the story had been told in the first one, that there was nothing to really continue, but the studio was real hell-bent on doing a sequel because the first one made a lot of money and they were seeing dollar signs, and they went through a number of different directors who they wanted to attach to the project, and they couldn't get anybody that felt right. And so finally, 6 years after the original, they went back to Joe Dante and they said, please, Joe, please do Gremlins 2. We're begging you, please. And he said, I'll only do it if I have an unlimited budget and I can do whatever I want. And they said yes. And we reap we reap the rewards to this day.
Yes. With the closest thing to a live actions Looney Tunes movie we'll ever get.
Yes.
What about Space Jam?
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
That kind of a live-action Looney Tunes movie?
No.
It's live action with Looney Tunes.
What about Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
No.
What about Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers?
Shut up. You're ruining the bit.
That's my specialty. Now, did it do well?
I think so.
I think it did decently well. Obviously not as well as the first.
Yeah, we didn't get Gremlins 3 off of this, although it seems to be in our future. We'll talk about that towards the end of the episode. But I mean, yeah, this is, I think it's great that that Joe Dante got a blank check for this and the studio let him do whatever he wanted, because this truly does feel like the sort of unhinged fever dream of somebody who has no restrictions put upon them.
Unhinged is the word.
For the better, in every way. I mean that as a full compliment to Joe Dante and this film.
It's just filled to the brim with visual jokes, visual gags. Like, from the very jump, we get, it starts with a Looney Tunes bit with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck arguing over who's gonna do the beginning logo crawl.
Yes. Yeah. And illustrated by
Chuck Jones.
Jones.
They got Chuck Jones back to do
the bookends.
The movie, it's bookended at the very end. After the credits, we get a Porky Pig. That's all, folks. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was such a great idea to have the Looney Tunes introduce this movie, because it really is a live action Looney Tunes movie. Like, it is just nearly 2 hours of pratfalls and slapstick physical comedy, cartoon comedy.
The pacing reminds me of a Mel Brooks film.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Like they do the similar gag from Airplane where there's a person over the comms the whole time just casually in the background, like, riffing.
If there's anything that this movie has to its detriment, it's that it's so full of good jokes that it's...
I could watch it again already.
One of my favorite announcer bits is someone goes over the intercom and is like, to the person with license plate G3R EE6, you need to move your car. It's ugly.
It's old and dirty.
Yeah. You need to move your car. It's old and dirty.
Well, let's set up for those who may not have seen Gremlins 2. The premise is it's Gremlins in the big city.
Yes.
We do have our returning protagonists from the original Gremlins, Billy and Kate, Zach Galligan, and Phoebe Cates.
And of course, Bingus. What's his name?
Gizmo?
Gizmo.
Yeah, well. Yes.
You can't forget Gizmo.
Can't forget Bingus. But our protagonists are in the big city now. They live and work in New York City. They both work for CCN, the Clamp Cable Network, owned by
Ted Turner.
Well, Joe Dante is certainly not shy about saying that this character is a combination between Donald Trump and Ted Turner,
Yes.
which is
thankfully
very,
80s Donald Trump.
very, very apparent in the film. Like, you can absolutely he even kind of looks like a combination between the two of them,
100%.
which is interesting. But yeah, he has this big skyscraper in Manhattan, with it's a because of Ted Turner, he has his own cable corporation. It's CCN instead of CNN.
And it's a big Trump tower.
It's a big Trump tower, but most importantly is that it's the world's first smart building.
And this movie came out in 1990.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, super ahead of its time on that front. I mean, ahead of its time in so many ways. But also just, like, perfectly encapsulating the era as well. Like, what a great movie to, like, fucking close out the 80s with.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know, like, technically it's 1990 or whatever, but, like, it's an 80s movie.
I mean, it's on that
way.
fringe there.
And
Again, it still has lots of 80s
as
vibes,
anyone smart knows, like, decades don't just end and then suddenly the fashion changes and everything else. Like, it's not, it doesn't work like that. So it's really nice just getting this wonderful little film that's just chock full of Chuck Jones. Chock full of 80s aesthetic stuff too. I love the control room with the big colorful buttons and radar shit and all of that. But there's just so much to show off and to have fun with in this setting of, like, oh, it's a smart tower and it's genius. It's the perfect setting for Gremlins to come in and just set things awry. Beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. Movie,
the Gremlins get loose in the machine, and just fucking wreak havoc. And this time they've got a whole fucking future ass skyscraper to fuck around with.
And you've got
and it's perfect.
Yeah, and you've got a character that basically is Donald Trump, but the actor isn't doing a bad Trump impression like everyone does now.
Right.
Right? Like,
well, I mean, Trump.
None of that bullshit.
Trump meant
It's 80s
something.
Trump.
Yeah, Trump meant something different back in the late '80s, early '90s.
Well, it's like his cameo in you forget how much
2?
of an impact he had, in the 80s, but it's like, in Home Alone 2 and that sort of stuff, and it's like a fucking simpler, nicer time.
He was a TV star.
Yeah, and you could enjoy him being the boss, and like there wasn't all of the other connotations around it.
I
And
used
it
to
was
watch- I used to watch The
time,
Apprentice.
they have a lot of digs at both Trump and Ted Turner.
They
and
have a ton of digs, but they're in such a different flavor as they would be now. And that's what was, I think, refreshing about it. Because, like, he's still smiling and fun the whole time. Like, and he's a great character. But,
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's hard to do Trump humor at this point without President Trump humor, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different type of animal. But yeah, they have the imitation books. I think a lot of my favorite bits with that character are the Ted Turner bits, though.
Yes.
Like, Ted Turner famously had a big hard-on for colorizing black and white classic movies. Like, there's a bit in the movie where they say they're gonna show Casablanca now in color.
Yes, now in full glorious color.
This is one of the things that comes in. I think it's probably my favorite that comes in over the announcer in the background. It's like, yes, come to our theater, now showing Casablanca in color. Just while characters are running around doing something else.
Yeah. Well, Ted Turner famously was that guy. Like, he tried to get Citizen Kane colorized, and Orson Welles wrote into his will as one of his dying wishes that Citizen Kane was never colorized. And Ted Turner tried to do it anyways, and he was stopped before he could get all the way
God.
By his estate.
Thank God. I cannot imagine what a colorized Citizen Kane would be like.
Yeah.
Like, that movie takes so much from, like, German expressionism, and, like, black and white is so much a part of the style, and, like, what makes it look so good.
I don't know if y'all have seen any of the, like, colorized black and white movies or anything before. It looks bad.
Yeah, I've seen lazy versions.
It looks pretty bad. But one of the other bits that I love from that Ted Turner character is once the Gremlins break out and are on the loose, he shows the main character this end of the world videotape.
Yes.
Which is an actual thing that CNN has. They have an actual end-of-the-world video that they have in the vault ready to go.
Yeah.
And I find that so fucking funny.
It's
I wonder how often
how much of an
they...
egotist he is, that, like, his tower is just being, like, taken... Like, his one building in Manhattan is being taken over, and that to him is, like,
and
enough
starts
of a reason.
broadcasting the end of the world.
Yeah, to broadcast it as the end of the world, like, just as hyperbole is so
Man, it makes
funny.
me wonder what CNN's end of the world reel is like. Like, how often do they update that? Because, like, we're especially reaching this point of, like, accelerationism where, like, so much fucking shit happens, like, every week that is, like, of note, quote unquote, that, like, is, like, everybody's watching in real time online.
Yeah, they
it's
gotta
like, how do you...
the Me Too anchors, like, you don't want Matt Lauer giving the whole thing.
Yeah, fucking Matt Lauer announcing the end of the world. Yeah. I wonder if they
With
still
Charlie
like
Rose,
if they still like actively
yeah.
update that shit, or if they've given up on it at this point, because it's like, man, how do you even? And also, like, who's gonna be watching CNN while the world's ending?
I like to imagine that the last time they put one of those together was in, like, 1992, and it's Bill Cosby trying to be the comforting America's dad.
So yeah, when the world ends in the next 5 to 10 years, they're gonna put on the end of the world tape, and it's gonna be like super
Bill
outdated.
Cosby.
For like...
God. Jesus Christ, that's morbid as shit. Oh my god.
That'd be so funny.
Hey, world's coming to an end. Shit.
Well, one of the things that's so great about this movie is that because it's sort of like this company is sort of like a big conglomerate. It has so many like different things in the building for the Gremlins to get into. You know, they've got all the TV studios and stuff, but also one of the floors is like a genetic research lab that's run by Christopher Lee.
Of all people.
Of all people, who has my favorite character name in the movie, which is Dr. Catheter. I think they only say his name
That's
out loud.
That's a Muppet name.
I think they only say his name out loud once in the movie, but he's Dr. Catheter, and he has this like genetic research lab where they've got like the distilled genetics of like all of these like weird different experiments. So of course the Gremlins get into it and drink all of this stuff, but then it creates this like huge colorful cast of like weird gremlins.
Yeah.
You got like spider gremlin,
Electricity gremlin,
bat gremlin, pog gremlin,
Pog
smart
Park 10 Tahoes.
pog white, yeah. Smart gremlin.
Smart
Yeah.
gremlin.
The brain gremlin, yeah.
I love that lab. It's such like Oh yeah, this is capitalism right here. Just animal testing.
Yeah.
With no complete disregard for consequences.
Well, our introduction to Christopher Lee's character is like somebody delivers him a package and he's like, "Ooh, it's my malaria." And he like opens it up and takes out the bottle and is like, "Oh, it's only rabies. I've already got rabies." You know, and at the same time, like, his assistant is there and she's like got a cold and she like blows her nose into a tissue and he's like, "Can I have that tissue?" And he like takes it and like puts it in his lab coat pocket. He's just like collecting diseases.
While he's walking
shit.
through the lab and we're seeing it for the first time, he puts the tissue in an intern's hand. He's like, "Go run some tests.
Go analyze this." Yeah.
I have to say I love those twins too. They were in a bunch of movies in the late 80s, early 90s, but this is the one I remember the most. I think they were in, I want to say like Basic Instinct and not Jurassic Park, something.
Yeah, definitely
similar.
not Jurassic Park.
I remember them from a bunch of stuff, but I love the little dance that they do, the little almost Trumpish jig.
Well, I love how they're introduced too, because like we just
Tweedledum.
see one of them first, and like Christopher Lee walks up to him and he's like, "How's the cloning research coming?" And then like the other one turns around and it's twins, and they both say in unison, "Very well, Doctor." You know, it's like such a fun way to do that little reveal. So they're not twins; they're clones.
Yeah. Oh, they were in Terminator 2.
Terminator
the
2,
twins in there,
T2,
yeah.
that's right.
Terminator 2, the new batch. Yeah. And again, too, it's really goofy because Christopher Lee is like leering over like animals as they're being tested and shit. And it's like, damn, I mean, Christopher Lee, like, even in like a cartoon role, I find to be like super intimidating because like my dude like fucking killed people in real life. Like he was hardcore as shit. He was like the actual James Bond and
He
stuff.
didn't just kill people, he killed Nazis.
Yeah.
Which is even cooler.
Yeah,
He was
Nazi
also
people and
the
Nazi
lead
hunter.
singer of an excellent metal band.
Charlemagne, yeah.
yeah.
Because he's apparently descended from the real Charlemagne.
Fucking awesome. What a king.
I don't love power metal, but I do love Christopher Lee, so I give it a pass.
It's appropriately campy.
It's appropriately campy, yeah. Maybe I'll put a Charlemagne song at the end of this episode. Honestly, I wish there was more of Christopher Lee in this movie, but there's so much going on. Like, I totally understand.
He gets a pretty good amount of screen time.
He gets a good chunk of time,
tertiary
and it's like
character.
there's a lot of characters, and if you consider all of the Gremlins characters, which they certainly treat them as, it's like, man, there's a lot of characters to juggle in this movie.
There's so much commentary amongst all the gags and stuff. And one of my favorite pieces of commentary, for very personal reasons, is the main character's work as an artist in this building. So our main character, after the events of the first movie, has gone on to Manhattan,
Billy Peltzer, to work as an artist for the Kringus News Network, Clamp News Network. Clamp.
And work for Clamp, and
The logo of Clamp is like an actual vice clamp,
in the shape
like
of a C.
in the shape of a C, like clamping down on the
Squeezing the
world.
world.
like squeezing the earth. Yeah,
It's
very
so
fun.
funny.
And so he's working as like an industrial artist, and as an industrial artist, I found a lot of his shit to be very relatable. And it's great because he's working in like the art department. So his boss, who's like the art director, is going around critiquing stuff and really
She's
clearly
the head of the publicity department. He
right
works in the publicity
and it's very
department,
clear
yeah.
she's just in it for herself, and there's a lot of really funny ego gags with
Yeah.
her character and whatnot.
She
but
is very horny.
yes,
in
and
this
very
movie.
she's horny for business and horny for success. And
Yes, that's Haviland Morris, and she's very hot.
she,
Yes.
yeah. Is it okay
They
to
play
say
up
a
the
dime?
like
is it
Jessica
okay to say
Rabbit
that?
type of thing at
Yeah.
points too.
Yes, yeah, like a live action Jessica Rabbit is totally the vibe that she goes for. It's very fun. But is it okay to say dime? I don't really know. Like,
Yeah.
is that okay?
Yeah,
Well,
she's a dime.
She's a dime.
She's a
She's a
dime.
dime. Then I'm gonna say it.
I don't think that's problematic.
Okay, yeah, I don't. I can't
It's
keep
not
up. But, like,
problematic unless you're a coward.
yeah. Thanks, Jordan Peterson. All right, cool.
Up yours, woke moralists.
You sons of bitches!
We'll see who cancels who. His Muppet ass voice.
Oh yeah, speaking of Gremlins, goddamn.
Kermit the Frog sounding motherfucker.
Kermit the Frog, yes. Yeah. Does disservice to Kermit the Frog, honestly. And going back to it, she's introduced by walking up to his illustration of their new wing or like civic center they're going to build in Chinatown. And he's done this full illustration of it. And she says, it would look a lot better if you put trees in it. And he was like, oh, well, this sort of just like put some trees in it. She's very insistent of it. And it's like, he's already worked up the whole image. It looks really nice. And he has to do that shit in analog. So like reworking it for the trees is a huge pain in the ass. And he works up the whole thing. And then several scenes later, Clamp comes in and like he's never been in this wing before because it's a massive tower and he's a super wealthy and like exclusive business guy and he wouldn't be on the ground floor. So Clamp is coming through. I love it too. He's like, I'm going to be around here more often. It's the kind of shit that you'd expect him to say. And he comes up to it and is like, oh, I love it. It's a perfect piece. Get rid of the trees, though.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm not so sure about those trees.
Dude, oh my god, so many times have I like been in that exact situation.
Absolutely.
And it's like, holy fuck. It's like, who cares? Like,
how much did it hurt you when the dumb gremlin messed up his painting?
Physical pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, physical pain when the dumb gremlin like the water gets. It's not the dumb gremlin doesn't mess with the painting.
Well, yeah. First, the janitor is like fucking with the water fountain, and it sprays
messed up twice.
Yeah, and it sprays the water on the painting, which then drips down onto Gizmo.
Yeah, because it goes down the pencil holder like a gutter, and I thought that was really clever.
It was fun, and gets onto Gizmo, who's hiding under it, and that's what gets him wet. So he spawns the other Mogwai, who then turn into gremlins. But yeah, the dumb gremlin, the googly-eyed gremlin, a
staple of the film,
as the Jordan Peele or as the Key and Peele sketch says, the gremlin who's just there to look stupid.
You do know, because you talking about a gremlin whose sole purpose in this film is just that he looks stupid as fuck. Yes, it can be in the movie, and it is in the movie. Done next.
which is fully accurate. Yeah. He when that Mogwai comes out, he runs all over the painting and is like fucking it up.
Yeah, with yellow paint.
Yeah. It's got all the little footprints on it, and then he's like painting on like the magnifying glass or whatever, like the big
little piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd eat that gremlin.
That gremlin sucks, man. Put that motherfucker in the blender.
Yeah. He almost goes in.
He does. Well, yeah, but he knocks the blender off the counter first before.
They kind of tease you with it because he's playing along the counter and you see the blender there. And they put that idea aside pretty quickly as he knocks it off.
It's like the first
like,
thing.
No, we're not blending them.
It's like, no, you can't put that little piece of shit in the blender because he broke the blender.
Yeah.
From there, we get sort of the outbreak starts to happen in the building. One of my favorite bits that comes out of that is the building, in addition to being a shopping center and like a corporate office building, it's also a TV network. So they have different...
They have all the sound stages.
Phoebe Cates is like a tour guide, and she's giving tours across all these ones. And they go into one of the sound stages, and it's Weber Cooks, essentially. It's
but I think it's microwaving with Marlene or something or with Marge.
Yeah, microwaving with Marge.
And it's great. It's this total Weber Cooks sort of. Well, no, it's a blend of Weber Cooks and like Paula Deen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
because like she's supposed to be like shilling for all of their bad food products. It's meals that you exclusively microwave in your home.
Yeah,
and it's all like really nasty. Like she doesn't use like cheese. She uses cheese
product.
Yeah,
and like
processed cheese product.
Processed cheese
product and things like that. It's like, oh yeah, I make these delicious like 5-bean ham rolls. and shit, and it's like some of the nastiest.
Yeah, refried bean bologna rolls, where it's just a spoonful of refried beans and a piece of bologna rolled up and stuck with the toothpick. Man, I wish I could remember what she's cooking in that big pot, which is funny because she's not microwaving it, but it's like a big pot. It's like
oh no, she uses the big pot as like a hyperbolic example of like how kitchens used to be before the microwave.
Yeah, it's like tuna, cheese products, pasta surprise or something like. It's funnier than that.
Pasta casserole.
Yeah, I mean it's it's whatever it is. The last word is surprise. I remember that, and I know there's tuna, and I know there's cheese product in it.
Surprise.
So it's tuna cheese product surprise. It's just like so nasty.
Yeah, it's a surprise, all right.
Where's the pickle? That's the surprise. God, we're just like dropping so many references to like fucking obscure ass YouTube videos in this episode.
Well, fortunately, the Key and Peele one isn't that obscure. But
that one's not.
I would recommend watching it if you haven't.
Weber Cooks is, and Pickle Surprise. We're 2022 referencing Pickle Surprise.
Yeah.
Old. I'm old. That is the surprise. We're old.
I absolutely love that soundstage gag, though. And, like, all the sound stages are fun and unique, too. Like, one of the main character's friends, he does, like, a late-night horror show.
Grandpa Frank. Yeah. But he's dressed up as Dracula.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of, I guess the contemporary analog would be the Jim Bob Drive-In.
Yeah, Joe Bob Briggs.
Joe Bob Briggs, that's right, not Jim Bob.
He's doing, like, a cheap Elvira, right? Where he's, like, between the shows, it's like, oh, tonight's thing is, Attack of the Tentacle Monster.
Classic horror.
He's dressed like Grandpa Munster.
Yes.
The Dracula with like the weird like curly Q sort of hairdo and the old cape, like showing like shitty B horror movies on.
And like the 3:30 a.m. time slot.
That's another great example of the Ted Turner rag. Is like he's talking to Billy and he's like, and Billy asks him something like, "Why don't you show like the old Universal monster movies like Frankenstein stuff, whatever?" And he's like, all the good old horror movies are in black and white, and Mr. Clamp only wants color, so that's why he's showing like the shitty B movies, because that's all he's got. Which is great. Well, because like once the Gremlins take over and like they're trying to sort of like control the media narrative of like about like what's happening, like he grabs just like some tourist who's there who has like a bunch of cameras, and he like becomes a camera guy, and he's doing like live, like on scene reporting of like the crisis in Clamp Tower, but he's still dressed up as Dracula the whole time, which is really funny. And I love that like when Clamp sees that on TV, he's like watching it, and he's just like, Dracula? It's like he doesn't even recognize that this is like somebody who works for him that's like on his network. He's just like, Dracula? He's Dracula's doing the news broadcast.
Well, it's like you get the idea that like he's such a quote like ideas guy that like he doesn't pay attention to any of his departments, isn't aware of like anything that's going on, which is why like it's funny when he goes to the art department and he's like, I'm gonna be around here more often, because like clearly like some of his like aides or whatever like, Mr. Clamp, you really should be like more involved, like in
true Trump fashion. He's got a lot of big ideas but doesn't like have the attention span to like follow through on execution. It's like, oh yeah, we should do this, and this, but like it all fails because it's also like poorly operated and put together.
It's so fucking funny.
My other favorite TV bit is they cut to a movie review studio, and
the movie police.
Leonard Maltin, the famous movie reviewer.
The show is literally called The Movie Police. Yeah. It has like a siren that goes on before it, which is really funny.
And he's reviewing the first Gremlins
the original
movie.
Gremlins.
Giving it a negative review.
Yeah, he's lambasting it.
Yeah.
Which he did in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because like he did actually give the original Gremlins like a bad review, and the fact that Joe Dante brought him on to do it again in this movie is really funny, and also shows that like Leonard Maltin's a good sport. you know?
Yeah, they're both good sports.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
that's super cool.
I mean, that's one of the things I love about Joe Dante in general is like my man is just such a good sport.
Yeah.
Like he's
well, I love it too because like that's the second time that the movie rags on like obnoxious fans. You've got that instance, you know, where it's like the critic is like, Gremlins 2 sucks, and the Gremlins come in and eat them. And then, but earlier on, when they're in the security room, and our protagonist first comes up to warn everybody of like the dangers of these gremlins. It's like, look, like you can't feed them after midnight, you can't do this or whatever. The first thing that happens is like two of the like security aides or whatever kind of lean over and they're like, oh yeah, well, what if you're in a different time zone?
well, no, that the whole room starts doing it. Like
that, yeah.
everybody in the control room starts like questioning the rules,
Yeah,
which
like,
is funny
oh, well,
because
like
the rules.
what kind of water, like how much moisture's in the air, is that
It's like,
going to
what
get
if,
them?
What if
like,
he
whatever.
eats? What if he eats something before midnight, but then he gets a poppy seed stuck in his teeth, and then
yeah.
after midnight, the poppy seed comes loose from his teeth and falls down his throat? Does that technically count as eating after midnight? And it's
like-
so funny too because like the rules don't make sense, and that it was like one of the major criticisms of like the first Gremlins is like these rules don't like the rules of what to do with the Mogwai like doesn't.
That's what
Yeah.
makes it
It's
funny.
like it doesn't make any sense. Like it's super loose, and so like when he comes in and starts trying to warn these people, and he's like telling them the rules, it's like they can't go in the bright light; it hurts them, and you can't get them wet, and they can't eat after midnight. And then like everybody in the room starts like hyper analyzing everything.
Well, it's fucking like Reddit forums.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. Like I think that bit is aged really well.
Well,
to
but
me.
then of
it's,
course
it's
the,
fucking cinema sins. It's that dumb bullshit.
but
where
they're
it's, like,
not
missing the
wrong
point.
though.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the thing.
no,
it's like,
yeah.
it's
You
like they're
almost
being.
in current day, you expect to hear the ding or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's not that they're not wrong. It's just that it doesn't fucking matter because
Yeah.
it's
Right.
fucking Gremlins, right?
Right, yeah.
Like,
it's so low stakes,
Yeah.
like like you shouldn't be thinking about these things. But I
or at
think
the very least, like, it's fun and fine to talk about and stuff in movies. Like, I mean, fuck, we wouldn't be here otherwise. It's just like to take it seriously.
literally our job. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like you can't be
Well, that's
annoyed that a movie doesn't.
that's what
explain
I
those
think is
rules.
so
It's a
good.
comedy.
That's what I think is so good about the bit in this movie is that I feel like it does a really good job of like cutting both ways in acknowledging that the rules are confusing and don't make sense under scrutiny, but also like being like people who get too focused on that shit are corny. And then of course the ultimate punchline is right in the middle of that. A gremlin bursts out of one of the computer
Yes.
consoles and like starts mauling the dude who was talking
Just
about
starts
how the
ripping his
rules
face
don't-
off. Yeah, like
It's like
it's
that's like the perfect way to end that bit.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
so
it's like
funny.
they're all like, oh yeah, well, if you feed it after midnight, but then fly over to a new time zone, it just rips their fucking
It just like
face off.
bursts out of the
Fuck
console.
you.
It's like, yeah, the
Like,
rules. It's like ultimately,
doesn't matter.
ultimately the rules don't matter. The gremlin still ate your face, right? The
Yeah.
rules don't make sense, but you're still dead. And then, like,
beautiful,
it's
fucking
really good.
beautiful.
It's really good.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, and just like to get several of those, like like the amount of meta in this movie is fucking hilarious, and frankly too, like I think ahead of its time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this movie goes to the extreme with that, to the point where, at a certain point, the film burns, and we see the gremlins doing shadow puppets in front of the blank screen projector.
Yep.
Which is one of my favorite sequences of the movie. I think that is
And,
great.
Like, you think that they're transitioning away. Like, okay, the screen burns, and it's like, that could be fourth wall, but it could also just be a cool transition into the movie theater in this place. But then, like, the Hulkster pops up. And
Fucking Hulk Hogan.
Hogan pops up, and he tells people to quiet so that they can keep watching Gremlins 2. And, like, he just outright breaks the fourth
yells.
wall.
He yells at the gremlins in the booth. He's like, "Hey, you better stop it up there so we can finish this damn movie."
So good.
Apparently, the version we watched has like the film and like the booth burning, but like when the film was released on home video, they swapped that out for an alternate version where it looks like the VHS is breaking. And awesome. a bunch of people thought it was real because they had done it so like they'd done the VHS like glitching so effectively that they like stopped watching the movie and like returned it to Blockbuster and shit and complained it's like this VHS is busted.
Holy shit.
That rules.
Holy
Man,
shit.
I feel
I'd love
like
to see that.
Yeah, that's something that
I'm sure it's probably on YouTube.
pull off
You know, I
as
used to
much
have
anymore.
a VHS copy of this movie as a kid that I watched, and I can't remember what that sequence was like at the time. It's been too long. I feel like my mom probably doesn't still have it. I mean, even if she did, I don't.
I feel like you can't really pull off that kind of meta home video thing anymore. Like, I think there was a video game, Eternal Darkness, that did something similar where it would give you like the blank video screen when you were going insane.
Well, fucking Metal Gear Solid 2 did that with Psycho Mantis, where he'd like read your memory card and like read your memory, your save file, and like show you like what like games you had been playing and be like, this memory's corrupted and shit like that. Yeah, that stuff is really fun.
It is, it's great. Well, Eternal Darkness had the one with the fly crawling on the screen too. That's
yeah.
They did some neat stuff.
This is like a primo example of doing that in film and it actually not being cringe or weird.
Well, the reason it's not cringe,
it's a little cringe.
I mean,
because the Hulkster,
because Hulk Hogan in today's light.
Yeah.
You know, Hulk Hogan back then
right.
wasn't the Hulk Hogan we know today.
100%. 100%.
No, the thing that really, to me, sells it is what else is known for breaking the fourth wall all the time? Fucking Looney Tunes.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so while I was the one to say it was ahead of its time, it's also, like an older era.
Jesus Christ, there's so many, like, fucking literal Looney Tunes gags in this movie. Like the part where Clamp's secretary is like taking a memo or whatever and like one of the gremlins is like hiding behind her desk and he puts a mouse trap in her sandwich. Like that's a fucking Looney Tunes gag
or
right
like
there.
Early in the movie to introduce that the building is smart, they have a revolving door.
Yes.
And someone just gets spun around really fast and shot
out of it. Yeah, it's like
such Looney Tunes.
It's great, and that just goes back to why it's so perfect that they have the film start with like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck like introducing it like there's like a Looney Tunes cartoon at the beginning, because it perfectly sets the tone for the film, because so much of the comedy in this movie is like straight up Looney Tunes slapstick humor.
Yeah.
And it's fucking awesome. It's done so well. It's so funny. I also think it's funny that Joe Dante later went on to direct Looney Tunes Back in Action in like 2001, 2002, or something like that.
Starring Brendan Fraser.
Starring Brendan Fraser and Bugs Bunny.
Let us not forget.
You know, that's a movie I remember liking as a kid.
It's got some cool ideas, but it stinks.
The thing is, I don't feel like I should revisit it because it's probably not going to hold up. But at the same time,
keep your sweet childhood
I
memories
did see
of it.
Space Jam 2 when that came out. Not in theaters, but...
Yeah, but you didn't have nostalgia for that.
No, and I realized how awful it was, so the bar is very low, is what I'm saying.
Man, real talk, the original Space Jam's a pretty bad movie, too. I have, like, immense nostalgia for it because I was a child.
I haven't rewatched it.
But it's not a good movie.
Here's the thing, though. Who Framed Roger Rabbit fucking slaps.
Is a great movie.
Fucking
Nobody's arguing that.
Yeah. Who Framed Roger Rabbit fucking slaps. You can do it.
Yeah.
Nobody's arguing that.
Yeah.
Lola Bunny is hot, and Jessica Rabbit is hot, too. There, I said it.
Ben has outed himself.
Oh, Ben. All right.
Are you one of those...
As a kid, I thought
Are you one of those
We all
people?
did. Come on, as a kid.
No.
I really did. You really
No.
She thick.
That wasn't my awakening. You know, I'm gonna be real.
Come on.
No, I didn't.
Fucking
the stars didn't
no.
line. I'm not.
I'm on a
devalidating you.
podcast with two liars.
Look, man. Look.
Two liars and Ben
No,
review
bro.
a set of movies.
No, bro, you're just that's fucking wishful thinking. My equivalent of sexual awakening was Rachel Weisz in The Mummy.
Oh, yeah, it was yours.
Yeah, she's hot.
Yeah, mine was like it was two different things. Oh fuck, I can't remember her name. It was the Playboy actress in but she has a scene in Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. And what a film to talk about this in. It's just not a subject I was expecting to talk about on this podcast episode.
Ben started
But-
by saying Lola Bunny is hot.
And the stripper android from Blade Runner, which probably explains a lot. But you know,
You know, like, all I'm saying is, like,
Were you one of those
when
people?
you're
Make a
like
public
9
statement,
or
Ben?
10 years old,
Were you one of those
you're
people
like,
who
oh,
was
man,
who was
I'm
mad?
feeling weird kind of ways right now.
Were you mad that they desexified Lola Bunny
how'd you
in
feel
Space
about
Jam
that?
2?
What's your opinion?
Well, okay, so the thing is, Space Jam 2 was a bad movie. That certainly didn't help it.
So the answer to my question is yes. Is you are one of those remember what they took from us guys.
Hey, Ben, no, totally irrelevant question, just to kind of get things back on course. How do you feel about the green M&M?
See, I
Shoddy
don't
bad.
Okay. Oh, good shit. No, I think here's my bet.
Okay.
Is
What's your bet?
I did not experience that. I can't say I did. Totally fine if you did though, bro. I don't
Jessica Rabbit, though. I think we can all agree.
I was too young. I didn't when I watched it. I didn't like
That
you know.
waist too narrow is scary.
Yeah, it's scary. She might snap. You're worried about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, too anxious. I think no, that's all fine and good. But no, whenever I hear like I have a few friends who have outed themselves as furries, and like
That is not what's
like
going
and,
on.
no, it's okay, bud. It's all right. It's fine. But you know it's 2020. Who cares anymore? But
It's 2022 actually.
Yeah.
You're about 2 years off, but your point stands.
even more so. But like, look, it's it's current year, and there's. I've heard from several people I consider to be friends that like they experienced that like watching like early Disney movies and shit or whatever, and I was like, oh damn, what's her face in that movie? That was the one.
Nala making them eyes and like
My dude, that's a lie. That was a funny fucking tweet.
You guys are too close.
My dude, that's a lion.
I look at a dump truck and I call it a dump truck.
we're too close-minded because we don't think Lola Bunny is hot.
Yeah.
I see a gremlin with a thick dump truck
Is this-
with some.
Tease, is this furry erasure? Is that what we're doing right now?
I don't know what's happening here. Now he's transitioning into the Pog Gremlin.
I was trying to segue here.
the Pog,
You're
the
saying
Pogwai.
if it's dummy, that's all it's gotta be is dummy thick. That's it. That's it.
I mean,
Yeah, at a certain point, I can't argue with that.
I'm not taking you to the zoo.
When
My
it's,
dude. You can stay home.
when it's thick, it's thick, right?
Yeah.
hey, I mean, you gotta call a dump truck a dump truck.
Jesus Christ.
This is one of those times where I hope fewer people listen to this podcast than I think that they do.
What a mess.
If you're not listening to this podcast, you're the winner right now.
Yeah. Shout out to all our not listeners.
Shout out to everybody not listening to this right now.
And
Real
you were
ones.
worried about getting canceled for calling someone a dime.
Yeah, right.
And now we've had a 15-minute conversation about big booties.
Well, let's talk about the Pogwai, shall we?
Yes.
I guess.
Pogwai.
That's one of the the DNA concoctions.
Well,
they have.
she drinks the bimbo juice.
Yeah, drinks the bimbo juice in Dr. Catheter's lab because he's got a flask.
A vial of bimbo juice.
He's got a flask of woman DNA. And
I
so
like
one of
to
the-
imagine he had it in a little glass case that said emergency use only.
break if horny. And one of the gremlins
The
drinks
Catboy
it.
fluid.
And one of the gremlins drinks it and becomes dummy thick. with big kissy lips.
And she goes after the hologram doctor from Voyager.
What's his face? Richard Picardo.
Richard Picardo.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Captain Picard, who's a different
Yeah.
character. Yeah, Richard Picardo. He's my favorite character in Voyager. He's hilarious.
That's cool.
He's also he's the voice and model for the cab driver in Total Recall.
How about it?
You know, the one that explodes
Huh.
and melts. It's all fun. Yeah, it's Robert Picardo. It's his voice, and
Robert
it's his-
Picardo, that's right,
And
I
they
said
did a
Richard.
plastic version of his face as well. It's really funny. It's a good bit. He's great. He's a joy.
I mean, he's good. He's good in this. At a certain point, it's like the only danger he's in is being smooched to death by this thick gremlin bitch.
And eventually, he just succumbs.
And at the end, he gives in because
yeah.
he's been trapped in the bathroom and being sexually assaulted off screen for probably several hours. That we've
for so
been away
long.
from
He's
him,
been
yeah.
he's been negged for so long.
It's
that
a case of
gives in.
it's a case of Stockholm syndrome definition. Yeah,
Pretty
and
fucked up.
So he agrees to marry the Pogwai at the end, which I will say is a little bit confusing because like she does show up during the musical number in the lobby at the end, which then they all get rained. They turn the sprinklers on, and then the electric gremlin electrocutes all of them, and they melt. So how'd she get back up to the bathroom?
she left
She
right
get away
before they
from
opened
that.
the window.
So yeah, they just had her like come up out of that stage and like do the little sexy dance or whatever, and then
Sing
she
New
went.
York, New York.
Yeah, and then she went back to the bathroom to harass Robert Picardo.
Yeah, where she was keeping him as his slave.
I mean, that's a pretty big loose end, right? Because like they thought they killed all of them, but if somebody like there's in the bathroom, if somebody splashes water on that bitch,
But
then
here's the real question:
See,
does cum count?
cum is wet.
Cum is wet.
There's
gonna
definitely at least some water in cum.
Here's the,
I'm not.
She's
Well,
horny.
listen,
Wait,
listen.
But she's horny for Robert Picardo.
Listen,
If
I'm not.
she's
Listen,
wet, does that mean?
I'm not a scientist.
Okay.
I'm not a doctor. But cum is wet, so there's at least some water in it, right? There's got to at least be some. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you percentages.
Yeah.
But there's some of it
here's the
there's
thing.
water
in cum.
It's
Yeah.
not
So-
a plot hole that she didn't die with all the others because they're leaving it open so she can get pregnant.
Here's the thing, that's the
and
sequel.
that's the sequel.
Yeah.
Half gremlin, half
Man.
human.
Abominations.
It's a mogwai. Fly. Brundle mogwai.
I see what you're trying to do. I don't know if it's okay.
Here's my
I
question.
respect it.
Here's my question. Mog, why would you do that?
Mug, why not?
Yeah.
Well, I won't be watching Gremlins 3.
You will for this podcast.
Yeah. 2023, let's go,
2023,
baby.
let's go, baby.
That movie is never gonna actually be made.
You don't think so?
No.
Warner
But-
Brothers,
but we
Warner Brothers
will
loves
predict
to do
it.
that shit. They're on a roll with that shit right now. Are you kidding?
I think it'll be made.
I think it'll be made. I think it'll be made.
I think it'll be bad.
I think it's gonna be okay. What's the worst thing that they could do? CG.
I mean, is this
the fucking Gremlins.
is this
They're gonna
skipping
ruin it.
ahead? Didn't Ben give us a homework assignment?
Let's save
yeah.
some.
Alright,
of that.
yeah,
I will
let's-
say, it seems
let's not
like
get ahead
a
of ourselves,
movie
though.
that would get stuck in development hell for like another 20 years.
But if it was in development hell, would it have a release year?
Yes. That's happened all the time.
That's fair.
That's why we predict Friday the 13th like every year.
And that's why we predicted New Mutants for every year.
Yeah.
No, that's correct. You're right. I'm wrong. I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong.
Not always.
Yeah, I'm not. It's
See
coming out next
Lola
year.
Bunny.
Okay. All right.
Coming season. What else we got? I mean, it's mostly visual gags, so like we don't have a whole lot to talk about.
I think what we should absolutely mention, because we've talked a lot about the visual gags, and like there's way too many jokes in this movie to like break down, and also, if you haven't seen it, you should. But I think something that we absolutely should mention is that the effects in this movie are exquisite.
Yes.
I mean, they were in the original Gremlins as well. The animatronics, the puppets, the stop motion has always been very good, but they definitely did not skimp on that in this movie.
My
so many Gremlins.
favorite effect in this movie, and it's such a small detail, is when the Gremlins are multiplying, when they get wet, you see like little pods form on them, and in the pods they're like semi-gelatinous, and you can see little gremlins like swimming around in it, and it's like, that is awesome. Like
it's so good.
The fact that they could get those little ones animated inside those pods. It's such a small detail, but it like adds so much.
All of the puppetry is so good. The Gremlins look great. They feel great. When
they all have
move.
such a unique personality.
They do. Gizmo is as adorable as ever. We haven't talked a lot about Gizmo. He's very cute. He does a whole Rambo thing. He kills the spider gremlin by shooting an exploding arrow at it out of like a homemade bow and arrow that he made. I did see that like one of the things at the very beginning is like he's watching Rambo on TV, like Rambo 2 or 3, I think. And they did get Stallone's permission. They're like, we want to have Gizmo do a Rambo thing in this movie. Is that okay? And Stallone gave him the thumbs up. So
fucking awesome.
That's very dope.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, Gizmo is extremely cute. As always, he's adorable and a sweet, precious baby boy. The voice done by Howie Mandel, which I always forget about, which is really weird. Considering Howie Mandel in hindsight, whatever. But yeah, man, all the puppetry is fucking awesome, and even like the little bit of like digital or CG stuff they do, like the electric gremlin. That all looks I don't know for sure whether that's CG or if that's them painting on the film.
It seemed kind of rotoscoped.
It does seem rotoscoped.
Wait,
It looks very good.
With what?
The electric gremlin.
Oh, the electric gremlin. No, I don't think it's rotoscoped. What would they be rotoscoping from? Like it's
rotoscoping can be just drawing on film.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, well that in that case, yeah, but it would be like usually you do like cells over the top of it. You wouldn't but which would just be animation. Like, I don't think you would call, like, for instance, like Roger Rabbit, which is how they did it, right? Like, would you call that rotoscoping?
No. You're right.
Like, yeah, rotoscoping is usually, like, for instance, I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, actually. I think you and I had a conversation about it. And I think that, actually, I think you were technically right, like, at the end of that conversation, if I remember as well. But, like, no, but, like, generally rotoscoping is, like, for instance...
painting over something.
Yeah, so, like, if you have,
like,
Beauty and the Beast is a great example, when the prince is, like, running up the stairs and his cape is billowing. They filmed it in live action, and then they animated over it,
and fucking, like, Waking Life and Scanner Darkly and shit like that.
But, like, here it's like, no, they animated it.
My point is... It looks
great.
good.
It
looks good. I love that they trap the electric gremlin in the phone by putting him on hold
permanently,
because they've got like the futuristic like computer phones on everybody's desk. And when the electric gremlin attacks, they just hold out the receiver and he goes in there and they press hold, and so he's trapped in the phone until they release him later to electrify all of the rest of the gremlins during their big
smooth jazz.
During their big Frank Sinatra New York number. They do a musical number before they're about to escape outside, which is very good. Man, I have such like a weird like physical reaction to that New York song because the bar that I was a bouncer and head of security at when I was in college. That was the last song at the end of the night. That was like the Lights Up song was Frank Sinatra, New York, New York.
Why?
So, I don't know. It was. You know the bar I'm talking about.
Yes.
But it was just
an Italian thing.
An Italian. It was a quote unquote cocktail lounge. It was an absolutely dog shit trashy college bar that does not exist anymore. But the veneer of it was like Italian cocktail lounge. So like the end of the night song, like when they turn the lights on and we're getting everybody out, it was New York, New York by Frank Sinatra. That's what was playing everybody out. So whenever I hear that song, I'm like, closing time. We're closing it up. All right, get out. All right, close out your tabs and get out. That's what I hear when I hear New York, New York.
And that is what they do.
That's what they do.
They closing.
They close in times and they get out of life. They get melted into big puddles of gremlin.
It's like when they enter the studio after all of the gremlins have been burst. It's like they're walking into the den in Aliens. It's just like goo everywhere.
Yeah,
and like
it's awesome.
Viscera and bits of gremlin.
Clamp slips and falls on it.
Yeah, and it's like just covered in
perfect
like,
Looney Tunes fashion.
gremlin entrails and
it's awesome.
bits and gore. Like, it's gore.
It's like half melted skeletons. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's one thing I did want to mention. I'm glad you brought this up. This is one of the first PG-13 movies ever, because the original Gremlins was PG, and it was before
that rating existed.
Before PG-13 existed, and this was one of those first movies where they were still like trying out that rating, where it's like it's definitely more than PG, but it's not quite R-rated. So this is one of those trailblazer movies, but like it is like
didn't they
extremely
make the PG-13 rating after Gremlins because of Gremlins? Like, or am I misremembering that?
I want to say, yeah.
I've heard that before.
I mean,
after the first one.
It existed before this movie, but this was one of the first PG-13 movies. Not like the first, but it was still like a new rating when this movie came out. But like this movie is like very gory when it comes to the gremlins. Like Clamp puts one of the gremlins in the paper shredder earlier, and just like turns it into like absolute goo, just pulps it. Yeah. It's very good. I like that, and I like when they come into the lobby at the end. There's just like gremlin goo everywhere and like half melted gremlin skeletons and shit. Like it's awesome.
It's Baroque. It's
huge. And it's all practical and it looks so good.
Yeah,
it all looks
great.
so
massive
good.
set, and they trashed the whole thing.
Well, Joe Dante had an unlimited budget. He could do whatever the fuck he want with this movie, and he sure fucking did.
And, you know, ending with a musical number like that is also very Mel Brooks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fucking Looney Tunes. Yeah. It's like, it's cartoon. Yeah. It's, all of this shit is just fucking, like, perfect cartoon. Like, this is a live-action cartoon in the truest sense.
In the same way that Spaceballs is, in the same way that, you know...
And it's awesome.
It's true.
And, you know, Ben and I both mentioned on the last episode that this is our preferred Gremlin. We prefer this to the original Gremlin.
Yes, I think because it goes more over the top and campy, it's more fun.
And the original Gremlins is a fantastic movie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. See our review on it.
Not to diminish it at all. But yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Ben. Like, I think I enjoy this more because it is everything I love about the original Gremlins, but more. Mm-hmm. This is like we've talked so much this year than in the year of the sequel about the same but more, and this is, I think, maybe with Gremlins 2 we've hit the epitome of that in the best way.
Yeah, and
where it's like it is the best example of the same but more.
You know, in terms of stuff we've covered, I would almost compare it to something like Texas Chainsaw 2, where like it's same but more, but it goes campier too. to kind of emphasize that.
But where I'll disagree with you on that is that while I do like Texas Chainsaw 2 a lot, and it is same but more, I still think that the original is better. This is the advancement of that, where it's the same but more, and it transcends even the original.
I think the big difference there is the original Gremlins had, touches of this.
Yeah.
Where, this, rather than kind of recontextualizing like Texas Chainsaw does, this one just turns it up to 11 and just maximizes, all the visual gags.
Yeah.
But what's so beautiful is it still does it in a different setting.
Yeah.
So you mix it up enough. We're not
It
just getting a
feels
small
fresh.
town being attacked again. It's something different.
Well, and I love how at the end, Clamp sees Billy's drawing that he'd just done in, like, his spare time of, like, their hometown that got fucking destroyed in Gremlins 1. And Clamp sees that and he's like, yes! This is it. This is the next project. I'm going to build a perfect little, like, small town community in New Jersey. This is what people want, the suburbs, Like, so he sees that and he's like, yes, I'm going to do that. But more! It's a really perfect
I love the turn of phrase he has. He's like, this is going to be the biggest small town you've ever seen.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So should we rate and then play your game, Ben? Or should we
let's do it.
Rate?
Yeah.
Rate first.
So
Ben, you start.
Yeah, so I picked this movie. It's because I love this movie. It's great. I will say there's certain points in the middle where it drags just a little bit, but that's just because for most of the movie, the jokes are coming at you mile a minute. So any breathing room it has almost feels unnecessary. This movie is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Great stuff.
Man.
Loved it. 5.
Yeah.
Loved it. Easy 5.
I'm gonna mirror Cleve, actually. Like, especially after...
Oh, I can't be the blocker of a golden pod. I'll give it a 5.
Are you gonna do it? Okay.
I'll give it a 5. Yeah.
Okay, we bullied you into it. It was real hard. Yeah, man, like, honestly, it is just, like, it's one of those things where it's so much fun from beginning to end. It's like there's not a boring minute. There's no time during this movie that I'm having a bad time. Like, I can't find fault in it for just about anything.
There's
like,
nothing I'd want to change. There's nothing
it's
I
so,
would want to add or take away.
Yeah, it's so clever. It's so clever and on point in its commentary without being preachy. And, like, it's just a masterclass of practical effects. Like, it's just, yeah, it's a perfect film.
I would be remiss by saying a little bit of some of the Chinatown jokes at the beginning are kind of rough.
Yeah,
They haven't really aged that well. I will note that.
Sure.
That's my little asterisk. It's my little star there. That doesn't age very well.
I wouldn't even
It's not terrible.
I wouldn't even ever say it's really truly racist.
Well,
like,
no,
some of it's
they're bad
coming
guys.
from shitty capitalist, dudes. So
Yeah,
like,
so like,
it's
the
a
joke
little...
there is that they're racist, and like that's it. Like that's the joke, and like that's fine. Like it's whatever.
Yeah,
like,
but like,
I'm
really,
not the person to be up in arms.
Really, really light. Like, I would say that that like
Tiny asterisk.
in terms of its age, it's tone deaf. I wouldn't feel good ever calling it like really racist.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
it's a little bit tone deaf in some of its depiction of like Chinese people.
This is the same era as Short Round. Let's contextualize this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Still
Still a 5 for me.
So you're changing yours to a 5 then?
Yeah,
all right,
I can't stop a golden pod.
Then Gremlins 2 is a golden pod.
So, they announced that a new Gremlins 3 is on its way. I want y'all to pitch me your idea for Gremlins 3. After all this time, how do you reinvent and reinvigorate the franchise?
Do you mind if I go first?
Please.
I don't know if mine are going to be that funny or whatever, so I'll just go ahead and get mine out of the way. I have 2. Both pretty short, though. One, I can see this being terrible, and it's not a choice. Like, if I heard that they were doing this, I wouldn't be excited about it. but I feel like it could be done well. And that's you do the Gremlin, and it's about the first Gremlin.
When is that set?
What
time period? I feel like you got to make it a period piece.
Yeah, you do Ming Dynasty China.
Oh, okay.
And you give it to like a Chinese martial arts movie director.
I'm kind of into that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and you make it about like the original Gremlin. And what's cool is like again, you give it to a director like who got their start doing like Chinese movies of that sort, and it's like someone from like an actual like Chinese cultural perspective.
Yeah.
And just let them go haywire with it and do all sorts of cool like action practicals with it. I'm not saying Gremlin Kung Fu.
John Woo. Give it to John Woo.
Give it to John Woo. Exactly. So like, yeah.
You're not saying Gremlin Kung Fu, but you are saying Gremlin
But you
Kung
are
Fu.
saying Gremlin Kung Fu.
It would definitely... the movie at some point would have Gremlin
Would
Kung
feature
Fu in
Kung
it.
Fu.
It wouldn't be about Gremlin Kung Fu, but it would definitely happen.
It would strongly feature.
I love that idea.
In about 2/3 of the movie.
I love that idea.
Yeah, well, in that case, my second one was just going to be like, you take it to the deep future, and it's Gremlins in space. And because like now oxygen is on the line, and like what can you make that's even more high impact than a smart tower? And that's a spaceship or a space station. And it's like, oh, it's space tourism, and you make it about Elon Musk shit, and it's like it's a space tourism thing. And the Gremlins are like trying to shut off the oxygen and stuff. And, like,
I mean, all you'd have to do is just like all
way.
of a sudden there's 100 gremlins, so they're taking up way more of the station's supply of oxygen than the people who already live there. So, we got to get rid of the gremlins before the oxygen runs out.
But it's like the Gremlins don't really... The thing that makes it scary is that the Gremlins don't understand how space works.
Of course.
And so, like, half their hijinks are, like, accidental stuff, and, like, there'd be a lot of gremlins, like,
I mean, I think
floating around.
I think really the funniest thing you can do in that, too, is that gremlins can survive vacuum.
They can survive in space.
Yeah.
They can survive in space.
for a little while, yeah.
Yeah. At least for a little while, yeah.
Because also, because you don't want them to be able to perfectly survive in space. You want them to be able to survive in space to, like, a cartoon degree.
Sure.
Because you also... We need to get some gremlins in space.
In spacesuits.
Yeah.
You got to see that. That's a big part of it. So that goes on the poster.
Yeah.
And you've got...
They have to make the little space... Wait.
Which would be adorable.
Space monkey.
Send a gremlin into space. That's how it starts. That's
they
the big
use
thing.
the monkey spacesuit.
Yeah.
They send Gizmo into space,
space.
and then there's some kind of malfunction on the space shuttle that gets him wet.
Yeah.
And then more gremlins spawn, and they say, and there's some kind of ticking clock. It's like they have to send more people to space, to the space station or shuttle or whatever, to stop the gremlin infestation because such and such bad thing will happen if they don't.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
There you go. So those are my two. And you know what? After saying them out loud and kind of workshopping them with you guys, I actually feel pretty good about them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. What's yours?
Well,
Steve?
I think you definitely have an advantage because you had two instead of one. But I was thinking
What's your
about
Gremlin
mine.
origin story?
Mine is also not like super fleshed out, but I was thinking like, okay, what is the root of Gremlins? Well, the whole idea comes from the old saying when like a machine or something is broken or it's on the fritz, it's got gremlins, right? Like when you don't quite know what's wrong with it, but something's wrong. So, the first one, you've got gremlins getting into the works. There's the part where they're like on the bulldozer. Like there's always that aspect of them like getting into machines and fucking up machines. Gremlins 2, they've got the smart tower. It's the ultimate machine to fuck with, right? So I was thinking, what is the logical advancement of that? First, my brain went to space, but I was thinking, you know what? That's thinking a little too far ahead. So here's my answer. Gremlins in the metaverse.
Oh, okay.
The Gremlin verse?
The Gremlin verse. You've got the same kind of thing where in Gremlins 2 you've got a sort of this Donald Trump / Ted Turner character. So in Gremlins 3 in the metaverse you have a sort of character who is like a Mark Zuckerberg type, right, who's developing an artificial universe. And I don't know how, I haven't thought that deep. I'm a big ideas kind of guy. Somehow the Gremlins get into the metaverse.
Sure.
But think about...
Oh, metaverse, not multiverse.
Correct,
No.
not multiverse, the metaverse.
This is
the
just the
metaverse.
plot of Space Jam 2, by the way, but go on.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Shut up. But so you've got. But what I'm thinking, where the real opportunity lies, that the metaverse, from what we've seen of it, as much as try to talk it up, looks like dog shit.
Yes,
It's like worse. It's like worse graphics than Second Life, right? So imagine like really shitty, low poly CG Gremlins in the computer stealing people's Bitcoin bought houses and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like really wreaking havoc across like social media, the internet, cryptocurrency, NFTs.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like there's so, I feel like there's so much
So you do like the
opportunity.
monkey NFT, but it's a gremlin instead.
The word gremlin and NFT next to each other just makes me horrified at the inevitable prospect that we get a Gremlins NFT.
See, talk to me 8 months ago and I would have said yes, but NFTs have been so steeply declining over the last couple of months, I no longer think that that's inevitable. But I think where your brain is at is right for the movie that I'm thinking of, right? Yeah. Because like
They're just right to be made fun of.
Think
right now.
think about replacing the Bored Apes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Bored Ape. But
Think
instead
about
of
replacing Bored Apes, but with Gremlins, right?
yeah.
But they're also in the metaverse, so they're buying like multi-million-dollar properties in cyberspace, and it all looks like dog shit. It all looks terrible. And that's also how you save money. You can do it super cheaply because the CG looks awful.
So you do like Lawnmower Man level.
Yeah, well,
like,
because the
CG,
metaverse looks like shit, and I mean, like you have it intercut with some real world stuff because, like, you've got your Mark Zuckerberg character, you know, whatever, who's like a weird reptilian who doesn't have like real human emotion, so on and so forth.
So he's a gremlin.
I like this idea. My only studio notes is much like Space Jam 2. We need to get Don Cheadle as the internet.
Yeah,
Mr. Internet.
so Don Cheadle
Algorithm.
So Don Cheadle is definitely going to be in the movie. So you're right in that. Like Don Cheadle's for sure going to be in the movie, but no other licensed characters. This is a license free movie. Every character that might remind somebody of like a licensed IP is going to be just off-brand enough.
The Funko Pop version.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So instead of like Bugs Bunny, for instance, we get
Bart Rabbit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we get Buff Bunnet. And he's
I don't like that.
he's a very strong gerbil. Yeah. Why not? Okay. Whatever.
What's up, champ?
He's like, yeah, exactly. He says, "What's up, champ? What's up, sport?" He's wearing a sweatband.
What's up, players?
And a muscle tee. Well, Offset will also be in the movie.
Oh yes, okay.
Yeah.
I'm turning away.
All right, I'm done. That's the.
I'm turning away.
That's the end of my pitch. Okay. Who wins?
Let's see.
Who wins? Cleveland had the
What's your Gremlins
advantage
origin
of
story?
two.
What do you do? Because there's another thought I had.
I don't care about the Gremlins. You already got two. You're done.
I have my own pitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So we know the rules of the Gremlins, right? It's, don't feed them after midnight, don't get them wet.
No bright light.
No bright light. So what's a location where all three of those are easily available?
The desert.
A cruise ship.
Oh.
So we do Gremlins at sea on a cruise ship a cruise ship goes out. Our main character is like in the shitty house band or whatever, and he, you
Yeah.
know, brings it on his gizmo, and it's a rainy cruise. There's a storm front going on, so he can be on the top, and little does he know, getting the gremlin wet multiplies them, and they all wreak havoc on the ship, obviously.
Gremlins, yeah.
Goes wild, and then at
That's
the
a
end
really
of the
good
movie,
opportunity for a gremlin in like a captain's hat.
Oh, you
and
got
a
Yeah.
Hawaiian shirt.
And a
Yeah.
Hawaiian shirt gremlins. Yeah,
Somali pirate
that's a
gremlins?
fucking layup. Yo, Somali pirate gremlins.
Pirate
What if one
gremlins.
of the gremlins like, I am the captain now. I am the captain. I am the captain now. Whoa, bro, that's such a
Great.
good idea. That's
right.
such a good idea.
I know I already gave 2, but I have a short.
You can't have more. You
It's
have too many.
Though. Listen. The Gremlins. Okay, so what's the actual origin of Gremlins, though? Right? World War II.
Oh, of course.
World War II. No, but honestly, that's where the term came from. Was pilots would say, you know, like there's gremlins in my engine.
Those darn mogwai in my engine.
Yeah, well, that is like that's the actual origin of the term. Like gremlins is like the vets would say, like, oh shit, like it's a gremlin, like some creature got into my engine and fucked it up. Like that was the actual origin of the term. So yeah, Gremlins versus the Third Reich.
Wouldn't Gremlins be the Third Reich?
Ooh.
What if Hitler was a gremlin? Has anybody ever considered this?
See, that's a movie.
He was like a weird little fucking
Nazi.
spazzed out freak.
Gremlins.
And that's what gremlins are, aren't they? Is weird little spazzed out freaks. Imagine a gremlin with a Hitler mustache. Nobody's ever thought of this before.
See,
Well, no one's certainly done it. That we know.
This movie has never been made before.
So
right?
brave.
We're breaking new ground. What if Hitler was a gremlin?
Some ground.
All right, well, that's all we got for this one. Next week is a Patreon pick, and this pick comes courtesy of honorary pod boy Sam Simon. Sam has chosen a film for us, a foreign film, a Spanish film from 2007, The Orphanage. Not to be confused with The Orphan. It's not that one. The Orphanage. I don't know anything about this movie, really, but Sam put it on the list, so we're
Wasn't
taking
that
it.
one of those movies that was produced by Guillermo del Toro?
Probably, yes, almost certainly. But we'll find out next week, so tune in for The Orphanage. Sponsor time.
What could it be? Let's find out. This week was brought to you by your favorite crunkcore album. Listen back to a simpler time. A time of crunkcore. 2008. It's here. We're crunking. We're getting real crunk. We're getting crunk with Kronk. 'Cause
Lil
it's
Jon.
2008.
Juicy J, the 3-6 Mafia. These are things people remember. These are things that I remember.
Yeah. We need
I
more
remember.
crunk core revival.
Yeah, the GitHub Mafia, the little JPEG, and all the other crunkcore musicians that you know and love. Bringing you to oldies and classics.
Little toot.
Little Toot,
Dude.
Little Zingus,
All right, well,
Small Beeps.
Lil Zingas and Small Beeps are bringing this episode to a close.
Please.
If you like the show, please leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate it. Thank you. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/podpeoplepod. Shout out to honorary pod boys Sam Simon and Zach Confer. We love you guys. Thank you. You can follow us on Twitter at podpeoplepod and at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. You can follow me on Twitter at SomeSpookySnake.
I'm on Twitter at Mr. Sheets.
And I'm occasionally tweeting for Lilac Studios to put up progress on It Stares Back. You can also check out my work on dreadxp.com, as I am studio artist there, and I do lots of fun art for all of our games in some capacity, whether it's cover art or maps or character design or concept art or other things like that. I'm just always helping out on all the projects. So there's all sorts of fun stuff to see there. I think upcoming is August 2nd. We've got The Mortuary Assistant. And Dread Delusion is out currently in early access, and that is a fucking amazing game. I'd highly recommend it. And of course, yeah, The Mortuary Assistant is absolutely fucking terrifying.
That's just a couple weeks away.
Yep, coming up. That's it for me.
All right. Thanks for listening. Until next time, just remember, this kind of podcast, only in New York, baby.
Does a man have to fight all his life? Only in death to take flight to the skies. Warmongers vie to take my throne. No respect is ever shown to pope or prince, nor man nor beast, and steal our cattle for to feast. No earthly princeling mine shall take, or scandalous idolatry so fake. In borderland raids, they came in their hordes, ransacking villages, taking the spoils, with nothing to lose, and possessions few. Bold, sturdy, fearless, and cruel.